Welcome to ND and Me, a podcast to share NDers' lived experiences. I'm Richard, an ND coach, mentor, accountability buddy, and business consultant. So Leigh, who are you? So tell us who you are.
Yeah, that's a loaded question, isn't it? Who am I? I am Leigh. I am 40-something years old and not entirely sure exactly how old, because each time people ask, I had to try and add it up and work it out.
Yeah.
And I just forget afterwards. I am married with 3 boys and live in West London. I am a research engineer at a research and development organisation and a scout leader. Scout leading is the best thing I've ever done in my life. It suits people like us to the ground because we get to go and do crazy stuff.
I was looking for my necker, by the way.
It's absolutely fantastic. Oh, your necker, yeah, mine is.
It was hanging up there with my
honest. It's around here somewhere.
Stuff, but, yeah.
I've got a beer here, but that's all I've got so far. Yeah, so that's roughly who I am. I'm a bit of a geek. If I could pan my camera around here now, you'd see all sorts of half-finished techie projects and things. I love being outdoors and setting fire to stuff.
As does any good scout leader.
Indeed, yes, yeah. All the good ones, anyway.
Yeah. I was cub leader for 6 years, and my assistant cub leader was the former Arcala, or Arcala deposed by 3. So he's in his 70s, and was Arcala 16 years ago, and renowned for always wanting to burn stuff. It's like any night,
absolutely,
no matter the program. He was like, I've got the kindling in the car. We could go right now.
Fantastic. We burned things last night. We were just looking at energy in food. And of course, that means you have to burn it, yeah? So we did. We burnt pasta and chipsticks and Pringles and all sorts.
In a bomb calorimeter or just on a stick?
On a stick.
Oh, okay. See, I think they've reformulated marshmallows. Because when I was young, if you lit a marshmallow, it would fly off the stick and melt whatever it landed on. As now, they don't seem to burn as well. I think it's like the sugar content or something.
Yeah, it depends which ones you get, I suppose. The ones we had last night, they burned really well. Okay. They get a bit melty, so you got to like make sure you do it over something that's not going to melt, unlike the table which I melted. Yes.
So, are you a fan of leaving it in until it burns, or getting like a brown glaze, taking it off, eating the glaze, and then re-glazing it?
The latter, yeah. Brown glaze, eat the glaze. That's where you get it sort of caramelizes, and you get that lovely.
Because then that way you get the enjoyment like 8 times.
Yes, that's right.
Instead of this, 7 to 10-year-old boy who's stuck half of his face to the marshmallow he tried to put in his face.
Yes, all over his fingers and his everything, his mates, and the whole lot. Yeah, but definitely reuse the marshmallow, get it nice and brown.
Fantastic. When did you get your diagnosis? We mentioned in the pre-call that it was late.
Yeah, it was late. So I would have been about 42 years old when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed because my son was going through some problems at school, with attention and forgetting things. And, we always kind of knew something was up. My middle son, he already had a diagnosis of autism. So we kind of knew what things to look for. But when my younger son was my elder son rather, when he was in nursery, we were saying, do you think something's a bit, it could be ADHD, autism, is something happening there? And they all said, oh, no. If there was something wrong, you'd know. We're like, yeah, we know. So he received his diagnosis, and I was looking down the questionnaire and sort of mentally doing those questions myself as well, and just thought, but this is me. And this seems to be quite a common thing now. People go through their kids' diagnosis with their kids and suddenly think, but this is exactly what I was like at school. This describes me to the T. And so I spoke to my GP and said, I think you should have a referral, had a referral. It took obviously like 2.5 years to get to see somebody. And we had a meeting for 2 hours. And she just said, oh yeah, you got ADHD. And she just wrote a prescription then. And here we are.
Fantastic. So you're medicated and are successful on the medication, or?
Yeah. So I have Elvance here. Let's hold that to the camera. There it is. That's
Cool.
20 milligrams. I have 20s, and I've got some, it's around here somewhere, some 30s somewhere as well. So 15 milligrams a day. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, so I can actually go to meetings now. And when I finish a meeting, I can remember what the meeting was about, which is like a huge step forward, really.
Wow. So in the prequel, we got onto the conversation of age, and age since 42. So how long have you had the diagnosis for? And we can then deduce if you're 50 yet.
Not 50. I think about 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So you're doing engineering type stuff. You like doing techie geeky stuff.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
So was that a childhood hyper focus in tech that took you that way?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. When I was well, ever since I can remember, really, I took things to bits. So I would take like the TV to bits. When I was like 4 years old, my sister would come home and had to try and put it back together again quick before Dad got home. I'd take the plugs off things. I have a really vivid memory when I was at nursery school. So I must have been like 3 or 4 years old. And one of the teachers found that I liked techie stuff, and she brought this little old radio in, and we took it apart together on the table during one of the break times. And I just been, so yes, it's all my life basically. I have been surrounded by bits of projects and electronics and things, and my whole desk here is covered in, like, it's, you can see all around here, it's piled high with stuff. It is absolutely what I hyper focus on all the time.
So organized chaos. It looks dirty, but you know where everything is.
I haven't got a clue.
Oh
no.
I was hoping that you were going to say yes, so then I can show my wife the video and be like, I'm not the only one.
No, I'm sorry. I'll be working on something here. I'll put a screwdriver down, and it's like, where's my screwdriver?
Well,
I had it a second ago.
That happens too, but then like 4 hours later, I'll be like, I know exactly where it is.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And so of course, I find I'll buy a toolkit, and it will, all the bits go walk. I'm convinced that actually Satan comes in overnight and nicks it. Then I buy another toolkit, and so I end up buying. It's same with like socks, really. I end up buying like the same thing 5 times just because I lose it.
Well, but 10mm sockets are renowned for going missing all on their own.
What is it? What's that all about?
I just don't know.
It's just bizarre.
I think tooth fairies take payments from dads in 10mm sockets.
It is. It's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
It is bizarre. So, how's ADHD affected your work life? Let's talk about your work history and how you got to where you are in your career.
Well, it's bizarre. So, in one way, it's had a really good effect on my work life. I probably wouldn't be quite where I am now without ADHD. But on the other hand, I was chucked out of A-levels because we had a bit of a disagreement about my attendance and my work ethic and their computer security. So that didn't go too well. The first year was great, and we did like the little mock exams after your first year. I did pretty well in those, considering I did no revision whatsoever and forgot they were happening before, till the morning, and I got a phone call from principal saying, well, Leigh, we're all here doing our exams and you're not. That's it. What exams? So, but I got there eventually, and they were all okay. But the next year, after a couple of months, I had another meeting with the principal, and we decided to part ways. The decision was probably more his side than my side. So I went to another college and went to did a BTEC course in computing there, which I left out of a month because it was terrible. They were talking about like backing store and tapes, and come on guys, this is 30 years old. So I gave it that and went and got a job. Got one job. It was doing telephone tech support, which I thought was hilarious. But that's I eventually had to leave that because I just couldn't do it anymore. So
lots of, have you tried turning it off and on again?
No, I was possibly a bit more blunt than that.
Okay.
Which led to some issues perhaps. Went to another company, did some sort of similar things, but all this time in the background I was at home hyper focusing on techie stuff and mainly the internet, and sort of running weird obscure OSs called Linux back then and Unixes and things, and playing with all this stuff. And then I saw an advert in a newspaper for an ISP. Now this is like the late 90s, this is like 97. And working for an ISP, like an internet provider with proper big networks, was the dream of people like me. And I went there, and I went in my cream suit, and sat there, and there's these guys sort of trying to grill me. It became evident they didn't quite know what to grill about. And I told them my experience. You know, I've been doing IP for years now, doing internet things for a long time. I had sort of dial-up before most people heard of the internet, through contacts I had. And they said, well, we've got an issue right now. Could you please fix this computer we have, this server? And I said, yeah, I'll have a look. Sort of fixed it in a minute. They had no one to fix that one, got a job offer, resigned, that evening from a previous job, left next week. And then I haven't really had an interview since then. We went through a series of acquisitions, and I ended up running sort of big engineering projects for a company called Cable and Wireless, which has now become part of Vodafone, flying around the world, building bits of internet. It was absolutely fantastic, like an ADHD paradise, because no 2 year, no 2 days were the same. Everything's completely different. So really, really good. And it's something I was really passionate about as well. But still, I had sort of no qualifications. And so all my qualifications really to date have been experience and being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people, and to be quite honest, a little bit of blagging it. I then left that industry in 2015 after working on big mobile networks for 10 years, which was also really good fun. I did some consulting for a while, which was a complete disaster because I had to organize my own tax then. And that didn't go very well. So HMRC and I have been having some negotiations about repayment of said taxes. We have an understanding now. So and it's automatic. So it's just direct debit now, and I can do that because I haven't got to touch it or remember it. As soon as I had to remember to do tax returns, it's a disaster. What I did find though is actually, if you have issues with HMRC in the UK, talk to them. They are actually pretty good. I got all the fines cancelled. I just said, look, I'm really sorry. I have ADHD, probably got autism as well. It's been a bit rough. It's been a rough few years. I'm really sorry. They were really, really good just to talk to and sort things out with. And then I decided after the consultancy thing and failing that, I can't be my own employee anymore. I had to go to somewhere and work for somewhere. All these things are taken care of, and ended up where I am now, which is like I probably won't say who they are, but they are a prestigious research and development company. We do lots of really, really good stuff. And the best thing, though, is apart from joining at the end of 2019, just before all the issues hit, which I think was epic timing, they are passionate about people going to work and being the whole self. So they want people to bring their ADHD with them and their autism and all their neurodiversities and all anything that they really don't care. And even more than that, there are really good support groups in the company. They give you lots of time to sort things out, lots of leeway, there's lots of help available. They really look after us, which is good because a lot of the company is neurodiverse because we do research, we're weird scientists, we're mad. We come up with all the clever stuff, but they really look after you.
No, that's fantastic. My last 8 years in consulting in people management, one of my favorite sayings about people managers being promoted is that you're promoted for your technical expertise, but you're not a people person. So we've just done some research, or the organization I've just left has just done some research with the Institute for Research into Workplaces, Organizations and Employment. Is that the right acronym? About reluctant managers. Managers don't have the confidence, competence and capacity to line manage. Well, yeah, because you've promoted somebody who's technically excellent and then given them a team. They don't want a team. They want to go and do what they were doing absolutely, already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
quite right.
Yeah, that big
issue happens all the time.
Yeah, and everywhere. In professional services, in healthcare, in pharma company, everywhere. You're promoted because you're bloody good at what you do, and then you become less good at what you do because you're having to worry about somebody other than yourself. So then the other piece about this whole self, and I think this is really big. I spoke in Patrick's episode about masking. Yeah. If you're spending any energy not being yourself, then that's energy that you could be spending being better at your job, or being more productive to society, or just
Well,
being honest with yourself.
it's energy. It's also really stressful because you end up thinking about, what's my presentation layer about? What am I presenting to all these people? Are they going to worry about all these things? And sometimes you need to present yourself in a certain way to certain people, but having to do that all the time, I found it exhausting.
Yeah.
Mentally exhausting, and you just get depressed about it. You hate what you're doing. It's not a nice place to be in.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And that's one reason why I volunteer with Neurodiversity in Business, because their whole piece is trying to find organizations like the ones you're working with to make sure that more organizations have better neuro inclusion, because there's actually a business benefit of having neurodiverse people at work.
Oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely.
So I watched a webinar today from Lexic, who was sharing some data from JP Morgan Chase that said in the first 12 months, their new starters who were autistic onboarded quicker and were 48% more productive than neurotypicals joining the organization. That's mad.
Yeah, it is. We had a situation, one of my previous employers, where I was interviewing somebody to be one of our sort of engineers, sort of network computer engineers, and this guy came in, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He knew absolutely everything we needed to know. He'd arrive the same day, he'd be doing things. I thought he was personable, easy to get on with, absolutely ideal. Then he had an interview with HR, who said, "Oh, he's not really a good fit." So what do you mean? So, well, that eye contact issues. He wasn't he was a bit direct with things, all sorts of little things. And I was thinking, this is before I had a diagnosis myself. I was thinking, well, the guy probably a bit autistic, maybe on the spectrum somewhere, but he's really good. Anyway, by hook and by crook, I managed to get him into the business, and he was, as far as I know, he's still there. He's absolutely fantastic. You couldn't wish for a better employee, really. He just got on with things and made everything work really well. And I still think in my mind somewhere, if he didn't get employed then that's just a huge loss to that business, just because of that discrimination.
Well, so 2% of the population are on the spectrum, and only 17% of them are employed.
Yes, I was talking the other day actually to a local college here called the Moat Academy, and it's a sixth form college, and I'm going to be helping them out with some sort of techie stuff, some STEM things, and maybe a bit of sort of mentoring as well, to help some of the people there understand that it's a bit of a difficult world out there for people like us, but actually there are some employees who are really, really good, and they want you to go and work for them. But they're saying as well that one of the guys there who used to work at another college, he sees some of the kids around about in the local area, and he says, "Oh, hi, how are you doing? Because you were really good at these things." He's like, "Oh, well, I had a couple of jobs that didn't really get on very well." And he thought, well, this talent is being wasted. And here we are in the UK, we're crying out for engineers and for people with bright minds who can do this out of the box thinking. And he said these people are being wasted. They're unemployed, or they're doing work that isn't really the kind of thing they're capable of, just because of that discrimination. And more importantly, because at an early age, they didn't get any help. There's no intervention. They were just left. Maybe at school they had some help. They might have had an EHCP. When you get to college and you're doing A-levels, there's really nothing. And you get told at the beginning of term you have to do this 2,000-word essay and hand it in at the end of the half term. And if that was me, the minute I leave that classroom, I've completely forgotten about that. I might have written down in my homework diary if I had one. It's gone. And so
but that was on that page. This page is blank.
Yeah. It's a huge pool of wasted talent that actually the whole country we really, really need.
Well, I don't disagree. That's my opposition to defiance way of saying I do agree, because I hate to agree. So, talk to me about the scouting journey and the benefit of being in scouting, and how you might feel about your diversity aiding your ability to give back to the community.
Sure. So I'll talk about scouting from my point of view. I mean, for kids, it's just fantastic. Neurodiverse, whatever disabled, it's fantastic. So get your kids into scouting. For me as a scout leader, it has given me something non-work to focus on, which is good because, yeah, I can get a bit obsessive about work stuff, and it's good to get out of that place. It's given me some really good friends who I sort of socialize with and go out with. We have some beers after meetings and things. It's really good. But also, it's given me a lot of skills around some of those sort of non-tangible soft skills, which I didn't necessarily have before, around sort of negotiating with people. So you negotiate with other leaders, negotiate with the kids, and it's just helped me be a little bit less impulsive about things. Because you're talking to somebody else who's like 8-year-old who's just done something stupid. You don't want to be impulsive about that. You want to have a little sit down and talk about it and think about it. And I think scouting's done it's really helped me get that mindset. That's our fire alarm test. So if there is one thing that I think scouting really brings to me, and the other people I know in scouting who are also neurodivergent, it is, I'm not quite sure what the word is, it's a combination of the empowerment of being able to help these young people and run really good things and see the excitement and the smiles they have. But also being able to look after the neurodiverse young people, and when they've had a really miserable experience at school, they can come to us in Scouts, and we can really make them shine. And that's very empowering for them. It's empowering for us as leaders, and it gives it. It's my cure for like the being a bit depressed about life and being miserable. Is I go and run some Scout stuff, even if I'm thinking, oh, I can't really face it right now. But you have to go and face it because you got like 30 kids waiting for you there, and you got all the things planned, and you go and do it, and you get back, and that was absolutely fantastic. That was.
Well, even when you've had a grotty week or two at work, in line with POR, we do not raise our voices at young people unless there's a risk of harm. So what we do is we send the children across the field, and then we have to raise our voices to be heard.
Yes.
Of the young people the other side of the field. So it's quite cathartic.
It is. But yeah, but it's been and the other leaders I know in scouting, people again in neurodiverse, or maybe not having the best time in their lives at the moment, the universities say that you go and run some good Scout stuff, and it's so much fun. You end up feeling like 100 times better. Yep. It's fantastic, and also if you're in the right area and the right people around you, there's really good support. I am terrible at handling money. It's not allowed anymore. So we do a camp, and parents come and give you give you sort of 50 quid for camp and these things, and like, what do I do with it? So
it's like, what child's parents gave me this?
Yeah, and I got to a stage where I actually wrote the name of the children on the money.
Okay.
Which is okay with paper money. You can do that. You can't really do it now with plastic money. I wrote the kids' names on it, and then like sort of 6 months later, I'll be like, what's this in my pocket? It's like sort of 150 quid's worth of people's camp money, but the kids' names are written on it, so it's okay. But yeah, so no more. So the support I get is now other people handle those things that I'm not very good at handling.
Yeah, so we got to the stage of getting a shoebox that's covered in that yellow and black hazard tape. It's got a little slit in the top, and it says subs and monies, and we only accept in an envelope with the young person's name on and what it's for in the shoebox. So no more of random leaders receiving a 50 quid note from the parent picking them up.
No, can't do it.
Just no, it's too much risk.
With the best will in the world,
losing.
It's no.
No, it's all a little bit mad. So talk to me about your techie projects. I assume you're at the office, hence the fire alarm going off.
Well, no, that's complex. So I have a slightly bizarre living condition. So I actually live in a church. So this is the basement of the church. Behind me there is like the basement hall. Above us there is the baptistry.
Okay.
And we have a flat above the church. It used to be an orphanage.
Right.
The converted into flats, I don't know, about 100 years or so ago. So we rent this place in the church. So this is my sort of church-based office that I rent to work from home in.
Cool.
So that's why it's a bit weird. Weird projects, goodness me. Well, my current exciting project is something called Meshtastic. And Meshtastic is an app for your phone, but it links to these little devices here. I hold it to the camera, though no one else can probably see it. It's like a little wireless device, which enables you to have text conversations between phones on a wide area with no phone coverage. And we're looking at this for scout expeditions mainly. So they have these little things in their bag, these little Meshtastic nodes, and they all find each other using sort of walkie-talkie radio frequencies. And then they let all the kids' phones talk to each other in basic text messaging. But more importantly, they tell you where they are as well. So we've got built-in GPS. So the hope is we'll get like a load of these things, give them out to lots of scouts, and they can go from their teams over like New Forest, for example. Yep. But we can still work out where they are, they get lost, and they can still communicate, even if they run out of data because they're playing too many YouTube videos at night in tents when they shouldn't be. But that's my current exciting project.
And then you need to put it towards like a 20 amp hour battery, so then they can charge their phones as well.
Oh, no, these are great. One tiny battery, it lasts for 3 days.
Yeah, but that's the problem is that they might run out of data, but they're more likely to run out of charge before they run out of data.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that, yeah. But if their phone's dead, we can still track the device. That's okay. Yeah. So as long as we can track them, we don't care about the phone. If they can't talk to us.
Well, that's a bonus, isn't it?
That's fine. I don't want to talk to them anyway. They're difficult in the nicest way possible. Other crazy projects. I've been a bit of a tech downer recently. I've got so many things happening, project-wise, because it's a bit of an ADHD thing. You get really hyper focused on something. Think this is great, and of course, what I'll do is I'll have a good idea. I'll buy all the bits for it. I'll get a quarter of the way through doing it, and I'll suddenly think, "Oh, can't bother anyone now. I'm not interested now," and it will get stuck on the shelf syndrome, here. This is the shelf here of projects that are about to die.
See, luckily you can't really see, but we have shelves that I put up out of the way, which are all full of projects that I will get back to.
Yeah. My favorite one is I'm building a valve amplifier.
Okay.
Which is next door because I like good music and good sound. Actually, it's not strict. I like good sound. I don't know good music. I wouldn't know good music if it's sort of hippie.
Do you not get the tingles occasionally when you hear something?
Well, you do, yes. So you get the little tingles. That's good, but I've got no idea what it is. Okay. And so I'll hear something in the shop somewhere. I think, oh, that's quite good. What is it?
Wasn't it the Shazam app that enabled you to take a recording of part of a song and it would tell you?
Oh, was that the one?
What the song is?
Shazam. Let me write that down. I remember.
It was a long time ago. I don't know if it exists anymore.
I remember.
Showing my age.
That's the one. Thank you so much. That's really. I've been racking my brains trying to remember what that thing was. But yeah, so I pretend to like good music, even though I've got no idea about any of it. So I was building this valve amp, and I got halfway through it, and then I was outside and sort of looking around the bins around here, and I found a nice amp outside. An Arcam Alpha 8 amplifier, which is like an audiophile quality amp. It's a bit rusty. I bought it in, I fixed it up, and I'm using that now. So the valve amp is still next door on the desk, and it's been left there for about
ready to be returned to
3 years,
with the intent of doing something with it, maybe one day, possibly.
Maybe. Really, I should sell it and use the money to buy something nice. Like I don't know, pay like a gas bill, for example.
Yeah,
but it'll stay there for another 5 years probably.
Yeah, that's cool.
To be
honest. So what are these blue boxes over there, or blue bases?
The ones there.
Yeah.
Those boxes are my components and bits and pieces organizational boxes. So I've got one here somewhere. You can have a look inside.
Maybe.
I say that.
They're all the way over there.
It might be here somewhere. I've got a similar one. Oh, yep, here we are. Yep, like these here. Look. So it's a box with all these sort of electronic components in, all organized.
Cool.
At least they were organized once.
They're organized when you put them in.
I hyper focus on organizing it, and then I'm busy so I didn't. Yeah,
And then you've probably got a
fallen
pile of
over one.
Ziploc bags full of bits that you might occasionally trawl through.
And there's a floor. Oh, I found loads of batteries. That's interesting. Don't know where they came from. Okay, that's good. Right, yes. So yes, it is chaos, but I do like to tinker with things. But the problem is, people say, "Oh, why don't you ever finish your projects? Why don't you ever do this? Why is it all such a mess?" But the kind of work I'm in, that messy brain really helps, because we're coming up with solutions to difficult problems that no one's really quite managed to fix yet. And because I work for a company that appreciates diversity, we can make it work. So I can write code, I can write software. I do it very, very badly. And when I do it, people get cross with me. And so what we do is we arrange a team, and I might be sort of engineering lead for the team. And so I make sure everything's doing the right things, and we have all the right conversations, and all techie things all work together nicely and properly. And I might write some proof of concept code somewhere, but then I'll make sure that in our team we have the skills that can take what I cobble together as proof of concept and make it into something that the customer wants to use and we can support. But that's why diversity is really important, because you have people who can do those kind of things. They can be very diligent. They can, document things. I can't document things really. It's very difficult. They do that sort of stuff, and we have people who do the ideas, and we have people who do all the finances and bean counting and things, and that's how diversity works.
That's fab, and a really good way of working. It's about building teams to get all of those different assets and aspects and facets put together. The village I live in is the global headquarters for Belbin team roles. So Dr. Meredith Belbin lives in the next village, who came up with a plant-based system, because he likes flowers and horticulture and stuff, to basically design a number of individual roles within a team. So I think there's 9 or 12. So you have the planner, the completer finisher, the so the point is that you can have this conversation within the team and find out, okay, well, Richard is an ideas guy and a doer, but not very good at finishing stuff. So then you can build a team to fill out your circle of all of the dynamics and aspects that you want, but you don't necessarily have to have them all in all in 3 people. So that's really quite
that leads on from what you're saying earlier about people being promoted for one thing into positions where they're actually not using their skills and are actually expected to try and use skills they haven't got, such as prime ministers, for example.
I was once told to avoid politics and religion.
It's a good idea, yes.
Look, it's a gamble, and if the gamble pays off, then great. And if the gamble doesn't pay off, then it will be just like it was when I was growing up. So, it's not going to be the 1920s. We're not going to see hundreds of thousands of people walking to get a job, starving. We do live in the future. The future is now. There are some terrible, desperate, horrible things going on in the world. But if we can basically pay people not to go to work during COVID, we can survive a recession.
Absolutely, yes. And we survived them before.
Yeah. And, it's never going to be as bad as it was, because we didn't have the technology then to be able to allow people to contribute to the economy without having to be somewhere.
Could you imagine COVID? So even like 15, 20 years ago, what would we have done?
Installed fax machines in everybody's house.
We spoke about this at work, actually, about how would if we had to do this and we didn't have high-speed internet and video and things at home, what would we have done? And the answer was, well, it would have been blooming difficult, and people would have been a lot more isolated, in a lot more trouble, and it would. So as far as pandemics go, timing was spot on.
No, absolutely. I saw an old Tomorrow's World clip from, it was either the late 70s or mid 80s, about the future is working from home. You'll have a workstation. And it was like this big old desk with a CRT monitor, a fax machine, like a proper dialy phone. It was like, and there's this thing called the internet where you can send electronic mail. I was like, that's never going to happen, because one of those workstations would have been about £5,000 in 1980, which would be about £500,000. Yeah, probably 15
And now
grand.
you can do it from your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use your phone, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's absolutely
It's not like
bonkers.
you get a bad neck and bad back, but you could use it.
Well, so two of my friends set up a media company in their 20s and started posting to YouTube when YouTube started. But their old system before high-speed internet meant that they recorded onto an SD card, plugged the SD card into their computer, downloaded the data onto a hard drive, physically took the hard drive round to somebody else's house to then process the video. It's like, and now you just upload it into like Google Docs or Dropbox or whatever cloud data management you're using, and somebody downloads it,
yeah,
or accesses it in the cloud.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I spent a little bit of time in IT and telephony sales, and most recently in sales and consulting. But because I knew a little bit, I know a little bit about a lot. I know enough to get myself into trouble, but not out of trouble. So I got landed with doing data protection type stuff in 2016 because, GDPR is a marketing thing. I'm like, no, it's a whole business thing. And just because you want me to get consent of people I'm going to market to, we actually deliver products and services to people. We have to consider that. So got lumbered with all of that jazz. And I was going somewhere, but my brain's gone. Oh, well, never mind. ADHD at work.
There we are. Speaking of ADHD at work, one of the biggest problems I find is that lots of the world just isn't meant for people like me. Things like the congestion charge. So congestion charge, there's a part of London where if you go past a certain virtual barrier, that
if you go past a sign this big,
it
has a C on it,
you've got to pay a congestion charge. And of course, what I do is I'll be in London somewhere, and at the best of times, it's a miserable experience having to drive anywhere around there. You do that, you come back home, you finish your thing, absolutely knackered. And at that time, you had to pay it by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just, it was never going to happen. Because at the end of the day, I completely forgotten about it. I'm sitting down with a cup of tea, or more likely a beer or something. Yeah. And then, in sort of 4 weeks' time, you get a letter from the post saying, oh, you've got to pay congestion charge fine. I think, I wasn't in London then. I look at a little picture and they're like, well, that's my car, but why was I? And I just found the whole way it worked was mad. And then they changed it so you could pay the day after, which is a bit better. But I have ADHD, so if I've forgotten, by midnight the day before, the next day is not going to help. And same with like parking permits. You forget to do those. MOTs, yeah. All these things. So what I like to do is whenever you have anything you need like that, is just make it direct debit, make it automatic, because then I can't forget about it. But they like to give you more time to do these things. So I write to these companies and say, oh, I have ADHD, these are the circumstances. And they say, well, we gave you more time. That doesn't help.
You didn't remind me.
Yes, ADHD isn't a type. I don't need more time.
You didn't send me an email and said, click this link.
That's
and then from
there,
my phone's payment system, Google Wallet, Apple Pay, whatever, then just click pay.
Thank you very much. No,
it didn't do that.
Like, no, not at all. It's not like I need to use a wheelchair and it takes me longer to get from A to B. That's not the issue. The issue is that A to B no longer exists in my mind after some random period of time. But they do the same with kids at school and exams. So when my son was doing GCSEs, well, he didn't because of COVID. But when we do his exams, they say, oh, because he has an AHCP, he can have extra time. Which just means he gets extra time to look at the questions and think,
I still don't know the
and
answer.
procrastinate and faff
Yeah.
around with it all, and fail to write things down because he's like me, he's really bad at handwriting and you get really, really sore joints. It isn't an extra time issue. And I think the world needs to especially the institutions like HMRC, who, to be fair, have been really good, or the other ones, the amount of stress that we've experienced because of things like parking fines and congestion charge fines, it is miserable.
Well,
So I do wish there was a better way to do those sort of things.
Jess McCabe of what is her YouTube channel? How to ADHD.
Yes.
Calls it the ADHD tax.
Yeah. Yes. That's it.
You know, like your tool sets. Every new tool set you buy is an ADHD tax because you've lost the last one, or you lost that one tool that you actually need from the last one, and it's more expensive to buy one tool than it is the whole set. So you buy the set again. Yeah. But no, I got caught out because in my last job we had hire cars. So whenever we travelled for work, we'd hire a car, use it for the day, because it saved us using our own cars and all of that jazz. So I went to Canterbury over the Dartford crossing, and I paid it while I was in Canterbury. I was like, I'm here, I've just gone over the charge thing, I'll pay for it. And that's how I do when congestion charge, ULEZ, everything. I do it on the day, so I know that I've done it.
Soon as you, yeah.
6 weeks later, I get a letter from the hire car company. By the way, you didn't pay your charge. We've been fined. Here's your charge, and so here's the charge, the fine from the charge, and our admin fee for telling you that you didn't pay. Okay, I've got dyslexia. Guess what? 2 letters in the license plate were the wrong way around. Oh, it's 120 quid. It's 120 quid because I accidentally put VX, not XV. Well, if you look on your system, there was a car that went through your cameras that day, and a charge was paid against a license plate that's nearly identical. So to and fro. You shouldn't complain to us. You should complain to Dart Charge. Hey, Dart Charge, Enterprise said that I need to bring this up with you. Dart Charge say, no, it's Enterprise. Go back to Enterprise. I go back to Enterprise. No, it's Dart Charge. So I copy them both in, and I was like, both of you are telling me to go to each other. You sort it out. Not my problem. It was my problem, but it's their problem.
Yeah, but it is these things. It should be dead easy to fix that. It's really obvious. It's really easy to fix, but the amount of faff you have to go through is it's unbelievable. And that's right. It is the ADHD tax.
Yeah, I completely concur. So we're coming up on the hour. Is there anything that we've not talked about that you felt you wanted to get out?
Yeah, I suppose there's 2 things. One is medication. Some people are a bit worried about trying medication, either later in life or for their children. I say it's worth a go. Medication doesn't always work. You might get side effects. But the nice thing is this kind of stuff, it's been around for a very long time now. It's really well understood, really well tested. We know what the long-term effects are, and there's nothing. And if you do get some side effects you don't like, you can just stop taking it, and it's no issue. Because it's not like, medicine for diabetes or things like that. It's a different class of medication. It's definitely worth having a go at it. And there's a few different types. I'll say worry about it, but go for it because it could be revolutionary. I find it's really, really helpful. And the next thing is just help the kids in schools and colleges and scouting, because their lives are pretty miserable anyway. They're told all the time at school, oh, you won't succeed. This is difficult. For getting told off. The things like not remembering the right color highlighter in their pencil case in their bag. I mean, with my kids, and when I was at school, you were lucky if I was there at all or had a bag. So go easy on them and get some early intervention, get some help, because doing it then, it's going to be life-changing.
I completely agree. One of my daughters, none of my kids are diagnosed, but my youngest daughter is getting additional support. and I spoke to the SEND coordinator at the primary school, and they said there's no point getting her a diagnosis. She's getting all the support she would get with or without a label.
Which is great for the school, but
cool if I trust that that's actually happening. Now she's at secondary school. I question how much support she's getting. So on Monday, I got a text message from my eldest daughter because one of her friends had said that the youngest daughter had fled school because she'd forgotten something and I thought she could run home and get it and get back in time for school. And I'm like, what? The good thing about living in the village where the secondary school is, but anyway, it's still a mile. You're not going to run a mile. You're not going to run a mile and a half there and back and get back to school in 8 minutes. It's not going to happen.
1 minute mile.
Yeah, not at the age of 11. So I drive to school with the thing that apparently she was missing. That's fine. You know, I can tell she's got similar traits to me. She forgot something she needed. Okay, I've got you. And then this morning she left. She's got double PE today, so she left. About 4 minutes later, she said, "Oh my god!" Come back in the door. I need a hair tie because I need to tie my hair up for PE.
Oh,
and I was like, well, that's fine. There's a hair tie on the copy table. Just off you go. Off she goes. So I'm like, part of me wants to like let stuff happen so then they will learn about it rather than constantly being the parachute, constantly being the safety net. So Monday, I was like, so how many other people forgot the thing that you forgot? Oh, like 4 of them. I was like, right, so like 20% of the class forgot what you needed, but I had to drive to school with it instead of you just being the 5th to also not remember it. Oh, yeah, but I was so upset. Yeah, but you didn't need to get upset because 4 other people did the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that all 4 of them are neurodivergent. A couple of them might be. But yeah, there's definitely something there about giving kids a safe space to make mistakes.
Yes.
Because once you've cut half your thumb off with a knife at Scouts, you'll know to be safe with knives. And hopefully you've done that when you were 5 years old in Beavers, and not
sewed it back on for you.
Yeah, and not 16 on the streets with your gang mates. Yes. Scouting is awesome. I was one of the first Beavers because I'm that young. And then I got kicked out of Scouts because of my inappropriate behavior. Well, did you know that incandescent light bulbs explode if you put them on a bonfire?
Oh, I will. Hang on. So make a note of that. Thank you very much.
but that's why they don't sell them anymore.
Find them anymore.
Exactly. But in the early 90s, they were plentiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a little bit more dangerous. But if you put like a tin of any tin on a bonfire and don't pierce it, it will go pop.
Oh, beer does. We try that. Sorry, Coca-Cola, because it wasn't beer.
Okay. Lemon squash.
Lemon squash explodes beautifully. But yeah, I completely agree. And I say enjoy is possibly the wrong word, but I enjoy letting our cubs make mistakes. Especially safe mistakes. So they're not going to make big fire mistakes. But if they're cooking breakfast, because I like the cubs, like 8 to 10-year-olds cooking their own breakfast on an open fire, I think it's formative. And one of them left a lovely brand new aluminium pan we were given by a parent. Like in reality, it was a bit rubbish. It was really, really thin, probably from the pound store. Left it on the fire with the bacon in and just walked off. And so I just sat down with a cup of tea and left it. And then he sort of came back about 10 minutes later and looked at the pan and said, oh, and picked it up. And the entire bottom of the pan had melted into the fire.
I was expecting for it to be like it deformed and like swallowed his bacon rather than just like dropping out the bottom.
Just vanished, the whole bottom of the pan. And for me and him, that was a formative moment because never again did he leave bacon on the fire.
Well, or use an aluminium pan.
No, yes, good cast iron skillets now.
That's a pretty hot fire to melt aluminium. It's about 800 degrees for aluminium, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like when you put your sort of drinks cans on the fire. It was that thin. It was really, really rubbish.
Okay.
And the
Well, it
fire,
was a
to be
lightweight
honest,
camping pan.
it was terrible. And to be honest, the fire was not ready for cooking on yet. It was not.
It was raging rather than ready.
But you know, I thought they've been told, they've done this before. They've seen all these things. They've been instructed on how to do this properly, and you know, it's completely safe because we're all at a proper distance and we're all very happy and we've got all the right things there. But it's just one of those little formative moments where you let somebody make a mistake because you know actually the cost is very low, but the learning experience is really good.
Yeah,
that's why we let people make mistakes.
Absolutely. All right, Leigh, it's been awesome speaking to you.
You too. Thank you.
I need to prepare for other things this afternoon, and have biological breaks to rehydrate my water bottle and dehydrate myself.
Yes.
But no, it's been great chatting, and we've been passing ships in the night on Facebook on the Scouts group
quite
for
some time. Yes,
quite a while. And yeah, it's been fantastic having you on.
Thank you, sir.